Okay, we're going to go into the first player movement phase. First player may move any or all of his units according to their company commands. As a player moves a unit hex by hex across the map, it may be affected by artillery in any artillery impact hex it enters. By artillery in any... Yeah, I just said that, didn't I? In addition, the second player may interrupt this movement at any point and attack the moving units with opportunity fire from one of his units. And then they just trade fire back and forth. But movement is pretty much standard. You know, you have movement point allowances and you expend them to move across the terrain. In column gives you a road movement bonus, but it also gives you a penalty against enemy fire directed against that unit. Motorized units that enter a town are considered dispersed, and that limits their ability to observe, basically. Let's see. Then there's column formation, of course. Units can enter that pretty much any time. Infantry units have a movement allowance of 2. If they double time, they get an extra movement point for 3 movement points. If they continue to double time, they start accumulating fatigue, and then once they get to a certain level, they have to rest. Let's see what else. The other concept during movement is observation and opportunity fire. Observation, in the actual game, your units that have not spotted each other are to be face down, and once they're spotted, they're turned face up. Observation requires line of sight, and the observation range must be great enough to spot the specific enemy unit in the hex. Line of sight's pretty much standard. There's a little graph in the back that you can trace the different elevations and ranges to determine if anything blocks that line of sight. Observation ranges are, well, actually quite restrictive. I didn't realize that till I looked at them again. When you're attempting to observe a face-down enemy unit, the owning player should use the regular column on the observation range table. Attempting to observe a face-up enemy unit, the owning player should use the focus column. For purposes of determining the observation range, a unit is moving if it is moving from one hex to another hex, it's undergoing a change in status, or it was moving as defined in this case during the previous friendly movement phase, and it currently has a bound or bounding overwatch command. Only units with an overwatch command, either plain or combined with a bound command, bounding overwatch, only units with an overwatch command may fire, initiate fire, whatever. On the observation table, which I will try to show if at all possible without mucking everything up, you can see that based upon the target unit, whether it's infantry or vehicle, and there's 2 numbers on divided by a slash, one to the left, one to the right. The one to the left is if you're observing a regular face down unit, and or is that face up? Let me double check. Let's see. Regular is if the unit is face down, so the range for that is always going to be slightly less, it looks like, than using the focused observing a unit that's face up range. And I don't know, it's not coming in very clear because I have it magnified, but if you're stationary in woods or rough, you're going to have to be like right up, you know, within a couple hexes. And the same in a town, you're going to have to be pretty much adjacent or within 2 hexes of it to observe enemy vehicles. So I didn't realize that observation ranges were so limited or so restricted. So it's just kind of a point I need to take into account, that even though you can see clear across the map board, you can't necessarily see your target. Other than that, we'll go straight into combat after that. But I do want to show just a real quick example of movement. It's pretty standard. And I need to take off these strength point markers underneath the organizational markers, because they're assumed to be at full strength unless they have a marker underneath them, so I can see where that would be confusing. But basically we have, I'm going to move this tank platoon here. I guess we'll lift it up a little bit. Along the road to the east. It's a vehicle, and we're going to enter the road, which is going to cost us 1. There is no other bonus or whatever for being in column. Column basically gives you the ability to enter other types of terrain at no extra cost. There is facing. Facing occurs, let's see. Let me check out facing here for a moment. Vehicle units must have a definite facing. They will always face a hex side, except when moving in reverse. A vehicle unit may only move from one hex to another through its front hex, and that's basically the 3 hexes to the front of the unit. The 3 hexes to the rear of the unit or sides are considered the side of the vehicle. Changing in facing does not require the use of any movement points. Vehicle units may move 1 hex in reverse by spending their entire movement allowance to do so. Units facing during movement is always in the direction of the hex into which it is moving. Not the hex that it was in, so to speak. So if there's any fire, it's considered to be in the hex that it is entering. You can change facing during any friendly movement phase without leaving a hex. When changing its facing in a hex, the unit may be turned to any hex side. Unit may change its facing with any command. Let's see here. Other than that, facing during movement, when not moving the straight line, you follow the little pattern. Does not require anything. May move 1 hex in reverse. Okay. I know that was all pretty fast and blurry and all that. So basically, we're going to follow the front arc at first, and then we can just turn for free. So when it's moving, so 1. Well, let's see. It starts here. 1, 2. Actually, it starts off map. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And it will turn its facing this way. That makes any sense at all. And this unit beside, next to enter, will do the same. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And it'll stop 1 hex behind that. The next unit, which I'm kind of getting off screen here. I'll take off these strength markers later and just assume they're at full strength based upon the scenario setup. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. It's not a good idea to stack units together in the same hex. You can stack up to 3 units of the same type, but there is a hefty penalty when fired upon by direct or indirect fire. And then pretty much 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We'll just keep moving these guys along, and that's pretty much how movement works. And at any time that it is deemed prudent or necessary. Yeah, where am I at? Where's my unit at? we have lost control of our anti-tank guns. Yes, here they are. At any time that I wish to conduct opportunity fire, because remember these units are in Overwatch, I can do so while the unit is moving. And that's opportunity fire. Otherwise, Overwatch fire is simply moving at a unit that did not, or firing at a unit that did not move. That's pretty much it for movement and observation. Like in this case, let's just do a quick observation check using the 88s up on the hill. And if I can find my other table, there we go. So those are the target is vehicles. They're not stationary in the clear. They're not stationary in rough. They're moving in technically clear, unlimited. So the 88s can fire all the way. They can spot the American units unlimited in range. So if they had indirect fire on call, or if they had the ability to engage them at any range, they would be able to, because they're observed, regardless of whether they're face up or face down. So that's all I can think about at the moment. It's pretty self-explanatory, although there are some nuances that need to be taken into account, such as entering towns and stuff like that. So anyway, I'm going to go ahead and finish movement, and any Overwatch I will come back, or any opportunity fire I will come back, and we'll go through that. But right now, for the most part, we're in the first player movement phase, so we shall see what happens, and then we'll go to the final fire segment, and the close assault segment, and the joint facing segment, and then it will be the second player's turn. So there won't be anything different there. So I'll probably cut off the how-to video, so to speak, at the end of the first player's movement phase. That should give you enough to go on in an effort to understand the game and game system. So until then, I'll talk to you later.